Well, thank you to those who have joined us so far. My name is Karina Lynn. I am the Senior Marketing and Communications Officer for the School of Law at Queen Mary. And I'm here with lovely Jo Gibson, who is the director for our new LLM in Fashion Law program, which she'll tell you all about. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section, and if I can answer them, I'll type back to you and respond. And if not, Jo will answer any questions at the end. So as they come up, feel free to put them in there. But over to you, Jo.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. I'm really excited. There's a lot of you coming, so I'm really excited to talk to you about the brand new LLM in fashion law. We're really very pleased to have this now. We are the first and the only university in the country with an LLM in fashion law. And I'll take you through the basics of the program. I'll take you through the modules, and also the team that is teaching. But if you have any questions, as Karina said, please do put them in the Q&A as we go, and I'll try and address them, anything that I might have left out or anything further. And there'll be a whole range of contacts for you at the end. So please feel free to get in touch with me directly at any time, and I'll be able to answer all your questions, hopefully. So this is what your LLM, why you would choose to be at QM. Well, first of all, as I've already said, it's the only LLM in fashion law in the UK, but it's also one of the most comprehensive fashion law programs in the world. We have been working very closely with a lot of our wonderful collaborators and supporters, including luxury fashion houses and law firms, and researchers and people working in the industry, to really make sure that we are covering a lot of the more let's say the more intrinsic parts of the fashion industry. So yes, you might say that intellectual property is a big part of fashion, but it is just a part of the whole fashion system. So it's really important to think about fashion as starting right from raw materials and right through to manufacturing and processing, to production, to distribution, and also after sale. What happens after sale? All the issues around waste, all the issues around secondhand markets, and so forth. And fashion's really exciting because it's a big part of absolutely everybody's everyday lives. So everybody comes into contact with fashion in some way. And so we're very excited about the program, as you can probably tell. So the faculty so they're experts from around the world, and they're experts right through the interdisciplinary environment of fashion law. So as well as intellectual property, experts in tax, in finance, mergers and acquisition, transactions and licensing, competition law, consumer law, and also we look at fashion and human rights, and fashion and social justice, so public international law and human rights. And they're all active researchers and teachings of international standing, and actively researching in fashion law, fashion theory, and practice. And then, of course, in addition to the faculty, we have industry collaborators. A thing that is really special about the program is every single student on the program will benefit from having an expert mentor who is working in fashion law. So fashion lawyers, fashion practitioners, and also in-house, and also other members of the industry. And this, I think, is a really invaluable, really special part of the program, because you have that contact point, you have that individual personalized careers advice. And in addition to that, of course, there are lots of other opportunities to network. So we have various opportunities with experienced fashion lawyers from legal firms and from in-house counsel and luxury fashion houses. So in particular, Chanel has been working very closely with us since the beginning, since we started talking about how to design this program. And they are wonderfully supportive, very enthusiastic. They already work with us with a special opportunity for undergraduates, and now we are expanding that into the postgraduate realm. So opportunities for mentoring, for careers advice, for and potential placements. And the location itself. So London is, of course, one of the world's leading fashion capitals. And it is indeed the headquarters for many of the world's major fashion brands, including Chanel, who is, of course, one of our wonderful collaborators, as I mentioned. But you're also studying in one of the most important fashion cities in the world. You're studying in the heart of legal London, but you're close to everything that's happening. So you're close to the various headquarters. You're close to major shopping districts, major fashion districts, the hub of Fashion Week, and so forth. And so it's a really vibrant, really rich resource as well. I like to think of ways in which also even just going out in amongst it is part of your research environment. And that's really important to the program. And of course, working with these various supporters from law firms and so forth, we'll also be inviting them into, so you'll have special guest lectures, we have workshops with industry, and of course we have an enormous number of events and other opportunities. We have careers events, we have special events with the special public events. So as well as the speakers, you are networking with the audience, and these are the things that are really important. This community at CCLS is one of the major things about the LLM, because the Centre for Commercial Law Studies itself is a hub for researchers, practitioners, and industry from all different fields. And in fashion in particular, it's a major hub. I mean, CCLS is the focus for fashion law in the UK. And so being there, you'll benefit from those regular events. You'll benefit also from the networking opportunities and a whole lot more. And you're part of this. You're a member of the CCLS fashion community. And just on Monday, we had our inaugural Fashion Law Day, which was a fantastic day. We had so much fun, but it was a lot of things happening. So we had hot topics panels, we had mentoring panels, we had brands chat, and that's another big part of this is we've got a huge number of brands who are collaborating with us, and we worked that into the program as well. And we had some fun events, but we also had a lot of networking events and a networking reception. And this was really, really, the feedback on that was that it was incredibly useful, and lots of people made fantastic connections on that day. And that's just one of the days at CCLS. We hope that all of your days will be like that. So I want to introduce you to their fashion law team. So obviously that's me. So I'm Herschel Smith, Professor of Intellectual Property, and I'm Director of the LLM in Fashion Law. I'm also the LLM Director. So I'm Director of the overall LLM and all the and within which all the specialisms sit. Dr. Mark Neon-Patama is a lecturer in law at the School of Law, and his areas of interest in particular are competition law and intellectual property. Dr. Vasiliki Kukuliotti is a lecturer in tax law. She will also be working with me on the sustainability module I'll take you through in a moment. She is Director of Student Experience. So another great thing about the Fashion Law team is that we're also very, very, very focused on your experience when you are undertaking the LLM and beyond. Your post-graduation career, you're a member of an enormous alumni network with Queen Mary, and we have people dedicated to looking after that network, where this is something that's very important to us. And then Dr. Daniela Dalvia is a lecturer in banking and finance law. So he's also an expert in mergers and acquisitions. And of course, this is a very big part of fashion law. We know that there are some major conglomerates in fashion, and we've just seen the acquisition of Versace by Prada. So that's a very interesting hot topic. And Dr. Sian Gordon-Wilson is a lecturer in marketing and communications in the School of Business Management. And she is doing some fantastic research on consumer behavior and consumer attitudes to sustainability. So she will be working with us on the sustainability aspects as well. And Dr. Thomas Farkas is also, he's a practicing fashion lawyer. He's with Evershed Sutherland, but he's also visiting industry senior lecturer to CCLS. And he is an incredible supporter, and Eversheds is also incredibly supportive of the fashion law program. And they also, provide 2 fashion prizes. So the 2 IP modules I'll take you through in a moment, each of those has a fashion prize, which is sponsored by Evershed Sutherland. And I will take you through who will be teaching what, but the how the actual program looks itself. So it's a total of 180 credits, and that is the same across all the different LLMs. So you have these 4 compulsory modules, and this amounts to half your LLM. So that's 90 compulsory credits. So the first is Fashion Law and Social Justice. Then the second is the Fashion Enterprise, another 30 credit module, which is Fashion Enterprise, Ethics, Business, and Law. And then there are 2 IP modules, Intellectual Property and Fashion, Culture and Art, and Intellectual Property and Fashion, Innovation and Technology. Then you have to take at least 30 credits from the following electives. So there are 2 15-credit modules, so you could take those, or you could do a dissertation. And so you could the fashion sustainability and law, fashion transactions and licensing, and then there's a 30-credit dissertation option. I'll take you through each of these in a moment. Then you have up to 60 credits free choice of modules across the whole program. Now you could decide to do all of the fashion modules, including the dissertation, which would mean that you'd still have 30 credits free choice. And there are lots of things that would be very relevant. And of course, that I'm very happy to speak with you about module choices, but modules such as reputation management in media law is obviously a very relevant one. E-commerce is another relevant one. You will do e-commerce in fashion in the enterprise module, but having an opportunity to look even further into consumer law is always going to be quite helpful. So there are lots of different things that will complement the program very well indeed, and very happy to help advise on that when it comes to deciding. So the how the academic year looks. So it's structured into 3 parts. Semester 1, and beside that is the lettering of the blocks. So when you see something like block A, block B, C, D, E. So there are 5 blocks, semester 1, semester 2, and then semester 3 is a shorter 5-week semester. So this is how they are structured. So the 2 15-credit IP modules you will have in block A and B. So one half and then the second half. And then you also have the 30-credit Fashion Law and Social Justice. Then in semester 2, you have your other compulsory module in the whole semester, which is 314. So that's block CD. And then you have the option of the sustainability module as well. And dissertations will be allocated at that time. And then in semester 3, you have the fashion transactions and licensing module. And then that is officially the semester where you are studying more intensively towards your fashion law dissertation, which is a research exercise. So I've given you 2 QR codes there. So one links you straight to the LLM page, where you'll find the LLM set out, and also the links to how to apply. And then the second one is the modules. So that will take you to all the LLM modules, and you can click straight onto the fashion modules, but you can also have a look at some of the other modules that are available. So I'm about to take you through all of the modules in detail, or at least a little bit more detail. Are there any questions before I head into that? Anything at all? Just pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I will keep going. So the first that I'll take you through is fashion law and social justice. Now, this is a very important part of the fashion industry. The fashion industry is confronting a lot of contemporary, important and significant issues, drivers of changes to business models, and really pressing concerns, not least of which is sustainability, which also is part of this module. But these are all various issues around the concept of social justice. So from issues of representation and inclusion in the industry to equality, economics, and welfare. Now, this module is a really interesting and exciting way to introduce you to fashion practice more widely speaking, and the fashion industry. So everybody in the Fashion Law LLM will be in the module, and we do undertake these discussions in a seminar-based discussion. So there'll be several of the teaching team there with you to discuss it. And we'll be looking through a range of various research materials and topics. It's also an excellent way for you to start thinking about what you might like to pursue in a dissertation if you are deciding to do a dissertation. So we look at diversity, equality, and inclusivity issues in both products themselves and in fashion practice, human rights in fashion, including labor and cultural rights and the environment. We look at imagery and advertising and media, cultural appropriation and cultural heritage. So that includes discussions around traditional cultural expressions and traditional knowledge, fast fashion, issues around environment, sustainability, and quite specifically around well-being and participation, so health and well-being as well. Fashion activism and political communications. So brands themselves will sometimes undertake advocacy roles, or include a strong activist identity to their brand. So Vivienne Westwood is an obvious example of this, but also in some of the recent uncertainty and changes in the United States. A lot of brands have actually decided to make attention to DEI as part of their identity as a brand. So this is really interesting because it's a commercial fashion item, but it's taking on a political role. And of course, there are other examples of the way in which political communication and fashion have an important relationship. The way fashion is sometimes used in political protest, whether wearing a particular item or not wearing a particular item, and so forth. So very much engaging with fashion as language. And then freedom of expression, access, and cultural participation. So some of this is also around questions around artists being able to work with trademarks, with design, with other elements of a fashion brand, and maybe make critical responses through their art. And another question around freedom of expression is, of course, the consumers themselves. So one of the discussions around access to dupes, for example, is sometimes spoken about in the context of this idea of access and freedom of expression. So really interesting discussions, things that you're coming up against all the time yourselves already, no doubt, and we're putting them into this legal context. And of course, originality, copying, and counterfeits in this context. So this module is, of course, the compulsory on the Fashion Law LLM, but it's also recognized on the Public International Law LLM and the Human Rights LLM. Then the Fashion Enterprise, Ethics, Business, and Law. So this is a module that engages with commercial fashion practice. Now, you do this one in your second semester if you are starting in September. And it does cover some basics of intellectual property, but it looks at it also in interaction with a lot of other areas of law. Now, in this module, you will also approach more of the procedural aspects of intellectual property and intellectual property management. So the module itself is structured around group work. So you will actually create fashion entities, startups in a team, and you will, from the idea from the ground up, you will devise some kind of fashion enterprise. It could be a styling enterprise, it could be a retail, it could be a design, any number of different examples. And in this, you will have your weekly lectures, but you'll also have weekly 2-hour mentoring sessions on your so you get a lot of opportunity, and you work in groups at those mentoring sessions, a lot of opportunity to work through your ideas and get support. So you'll be taken through the whole process of searching a trademark, searching for trademarks, developing a trademark, looking at the relevance of Google searches and so forth, as well as the databases, looking at trademark oppositions and innovation strategies in that context. You'll also look at how to draft policies, so ethics policies, privacy policies, and so forth that are relevant to any business's website. You'll get experience in business communication, because as a group, you'll also pitch your enterprise to a panel of investors who are our visiting experts from legal practice and from industry. And the value of that is that part of your course is also a networking opportunity. So we always have a networking event after that as well. You'll look at all sorts of developing various strategies for work in a digital environment and your retail strategy. And of course, the really incredible thing about this module is you get actual and comprehensive project management skills and experience. And that's something that's actually quite difficult to get in any kind of postgraduate legal or course, or including LLM. So it's something that is very particular about the Fashion Law LLM, and something that, again, is really exciting about it. And so you'll look at a range of legal frameworks and regulatory frameworks. You'll look at consumer protection and privacy, unfair commercial practices, and you'll look at advertising and marketing and the use of influencers, tax and finance, so mergers and acquisitions, of course, as well, and a range of ethical issues, including looking at the impact of AI, on the influencer environment, advertising, looking at it from also the development perspective, and also the imagery and representations, so digital models and so forth as well. And these kinds of range of ethical issues are also part of what you'll be doing. So any concerns around equality and discrimination, anything that might be problematic about your business model, environmental statements, approaches to welfare, human and animal, and also looking at access to certain social impact opportunities, such as funding opportunities, certification marks like the B Corp mark, and so forth. And questions around cultural appropriation. And these have been quite interesting. And looking at when you're developing a brand, say if you're working with traditional artisans in another country, and the relationship and how you share the benefits and how you return and feedback into what they're doing there as well. And of course, artificial intelligence. I should stress that all the modules are dealing with artificial intelligence because it's part of the fabric of what you're doing. So it's not that you need a separate discussion of it. It's something that's happening everywhere, and you need to think about it in that context. So as part of everything that you're looking at. So the two IP modules then. IP in fashion, culture, and art. So we look at key concepts of taste and culture and style in fashion. We look at the interaction with copyright, of course, performers' rights, designs, and design law and trademarks. And AI is clearly a part of this discussion, because part of the environment in which these products are circulating and these creations are circulating is digital. So fashion is also engaging in quite fascinating ways with digital products, digital fashion products, and virtual environments. You'll look at the art of fashion. So you'll look at how fashion is performed as well in runway shows, and also the legal implications of how fashion is presented, its interaction with other cultural industries. So the interaction between fashion, film, and music and art is actually very relevant also to how it's protected. And of course, traditional cultural expressions, freedom of expression, and of course, this is all in the context of intellectual property. So you will get very specific and important skills, because you will have this comprehensive approach to intellectual property, but you'll have very specific skills as to the interdisciplinary analysis of the scope of protection. working from fashion and a really clear knowledge of fashion means that you are much better at identifying strategies for protection, what is actually possible to protect, and how to go about it. So you'll have a particular awareness of what matters to fashion creators and what matters to fashion, but also how people view fashion, how people consume fashion, because that's relevant to how you protect it. So you'll have a very thorough grounding in the industry and in the history of fashion. And actually the history is very important to how we protect it today and has led to some interesting differences between jurisdictions. So the intellectual property and fashion innovation and technology module, this is really important because fashion is also a very innovative sector. And it is often not really considered or discussed in sufficient detail. And so this module looks at patents and trade secrets and other ways of protecting these various innovations in manufacturing and processing, but also in green fashion tech, looking at innovations in the jewelry sector, which also have an ethical dimension because it's looking at the environmental and human rights impact of precious gems. And also, of course, smart products, wearable technology. So the use of AI throughout all of these different approaches to responding to particular problems, and also the use of AI in making sure that we know where things came from and actually tracking materials. So we'll look at the use of technology in fashion provenance as well. And of course, materials and textiles innovation is huge in fashion. And what's really fascinating is that a lot of this work in fashion actually then ends up with an application in other industries. So there's a lot of work that has happened in fashion and invention in fashion, that's where it's had its origin, that has ended up in spacesuits or in surgical equipment or in the medical field and so forth. So we will understand that. And we'll also be looking at other ways of addressing the manufacturing and process, such as geographical indications, because geographical indications are really protecting, yes, a product, but it's the way of making that product. And so that's really about process. And traditional knowledge, because traditional knowledge is also about traditional know-how in manufacturing and textile production and various methods of production. And what is really interesting, I think, is that you will emerge from your Fashion LLM knowing all the intellectual property rights. You will have covered everything. So I think that's a really important and striking aspect of the program as well. And then fashion, sustainability, and law. And as I mentioned, so Vasiliki, Dr. Vasiliki Kukulioti is taking you through the really interesting responses through taxation to address fast fashion. So tax becomes a way of achieving a certain ESG policy, for example. And of course, Dr. Sian Gordon Wilson from the School of Business and Management will be taking you through a lot of really fascinating work in consumer behavior. So this module is really a much closer look at the critical issues around sustainability in the fashion industry. So you'll obviously get the necessary foundations in the concepts of key concepts such as ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and corporate social responsibility in fashion, but concepts of slow and fast fashion, circular textiles, greenwashing, and so forth. And what you will develop then is a very critical and evaluative understanding of the legal and regulatory framework, but also the soft law, if you like, and the normative framework of what consumers are thinking, the range of declaratory and other instruments of soft law, and the social norms of fashion, and how to how to really transform the industry through paying attention to that as well. So it really is an array of commercial, legal, social, and cultural factors that are at work here. So that is another really interesting module, and that is one of the electives. And then the other elective is fashion transactions and licensing. And for this elective, Dr. Thomas Farkas will be coming in and offering this with Dr. Mark Neon-Patama. And this is a great opportunity because you'll be working with a practitioner who has access to, and obviously redacted, but commercial agreements that you'll be able to look at and you'll be able to analyze in some details, because the important part of this module is to get experience in analyzing commercial agreements and drafting commercial agreements. So distribution and licensing agreements, any agreements as to manufacturing, and you'll also undertake client-facing exercises. So what we will be doing is we'll be bringing in some small brands, startup brands, and then you'll run through a range of activities with those brands, workshopping the issues with the teaching team. So it's a really interesting module, and it'll give you a critical understanding of these kinds of agreements, and the need to think creatively and with a view to what matters to your creatives when looking at producing these kinds of agreements. And then the dissertation. So the dissertation is, of course, an independent research dissertation. It's 10,000 words. It's an advanced, in-depth investigation of something about fashion law that is of interest to you. So the main thing is if you decide to do a dissertation, that you do something that really fascinates you, that you are looking forward to examining in detail, reading a lot about, and finding a lot of research. So you'll develop that topic, and you can discuss it with the entire team, of course, as well. And then when you have your topic, you'll be allocated a supervisor, and then you'll work with that supervisor. You'll have 3 meetings, but of course you also have the support of the whole LLM program that is relevant to your work in the area. So, of course, the only restriction on this is it must relate to a relevant issue within the academic field of fashion law. So you have an enormous amount of scope to be working on something you're really, really excited about. And so the eligibility requirements then. So ordinarily it would be an upper second class honors undergraduate degree or in a relevant degree. Now, if you don't have, an undergraduate degree in law, if you don't have an undergraduate degree in law, don't necessarily think that that's it for you, that's the end. There are a lot of other degrees that will be relevant and therefore would be considered. So if you have any questions or concerns at all about that, you can email me anytime. I'll have my details in a slide in a moment. But don't rule yourself out. So if you are interested, have a chat to me, and we can have a look at what you have, because there's lots of different directions you can come from towards the LLM in fashion law. Now, if you have a 2-2, again, don't rule yourself out, because there are all sorts of other things that can be relevant. You may have other legal qualifications or other professional qualifications or experience. You may have a lot of fashion industry experience or anything else that you might have been doing. So again, don't rule yourself out. Just have a chat to me. The point is that all of these things will be taken together with your personal statement, and to understand that the fashion law LLM is right for you, and that you will flourish. So the language skills, they are the same across the whole university, I believe, across the whole School of Law. I believe these may have just recently been revised, but I am not completely sure. But again, any concerns, even if it includes questions about language skills, you're very welcome to come and chat to me. But it will normally be that you would be required to do an IELTS score, or there may be some in-sessional classes that you will need to take when you start the LLM. Now, these are great. These are run by the central QM, and they are in critical writing and legal thinking. They're fabulous courses. I mean, they give you a lot of experience in how to do research, how to write. So they're actually really useful anyway. And so you can sign up for some of those classes even if you don't have to, but there may be an in-sessional requirement. But again, any questions about eligibility, you can come to me individually at any time. And of course, then there's, as I mentioned, your fashion law community. Now, we have a lot of things happening all the time. First of all, we've introduced the annual public lecture in fashion law. So I gave the first one, which was on the 28th of November, and I believe it's available on the QMUL School of Law YouTube page. So if you can't find it, or if you're interested, let me know, and I will circulate it. There's also a forum called the Film Fashion Forum, which I convene, and this is for all sorts of research and activities that are happening in film and in fashion. So doesn't mean we only look at fashion films. It's issues in fashion, issues in film. We've had a lot of really interesting events. We had a whole event devoted to fashion brand startups. And then, so we had so the startups present their work and their strategies, and then a roundtable of experts discussed. And there was an active Q&A with the audience as well. We've had them on fashion and sustainability. We've had them on fashion activism. And we've had a recent careers in fashion forum, which was brilliant. We had in-house from Shein and Chanel, and we had fashion lawyers from Osborne Clarke and Howard Kennedy. And again, the recording for that is on the QMUL School of Law YouTube page. And we've got some upcoming events as well. So we've got another careers event coming up soon. That will be announced very soon. So you can always follow the Film Fashion Forum on LinkedIn, or just connect with me and you'll get my, I'll also publicize everything. Follow the CCLS Eventbrite page and get notifications from CCLS about all the events that are coming up. Most of these are hybrid, so you'll be able to attend remotely. But we have them coming up in fashion innovation. So we're looking at materials science. We've got material scientists coming, textile innovation, and a couple of startup brands that are, and biotech brands that are innovating in fashion fabrics, textiles, and so forth. And we've got one coming up on in fashion and cultural heritage, and that is being planned at the moment. And then there is a roundtable workshop on fashion and human rights, and that will also be announced soon. That's the next expert roundtable workshop, but we have an event after the workshop, which is public. And of course, all the way through, you have the fantastic faculty, all the PhD students, industry, fashion brands, and a whole lot more that'll all be part of your fashion law community at CCLS. You'll also meet a lot of the other LLMs at CCLS. So we welcome students from other programs into a lot of the modules. So there'll be a nice mix of people. You'll get to meet a lot of people. So you won't, of course, you'll see each other, the fabulous fashion law students, but you'll also get to meet a lot of other students from other programs as well. So I think this is a fantastic part of it. These are just some pictures from some of our events and some of the fashion law students that obviously we haven't had the LLM yet, but we had the two modules in fashion law, and they've been incredibly popular. So you will meet a lot of people, some people who've gone on to do their PhDs from the work they've done in the fashion law module. So a great community at Queen Mary. And I've prepared a slide for you. So I believe you'll get all these slides at the end. I think they'll be emailed to the participants. But if you like, so the QR codes there are to take you straight to, well, my LinkedIn page. I'm very happy to connect. You've got the contacts there, our email contacts, the School of Law page on LinkedIn, the LLM page on LinkedIn, Film Fashion Forum, which is the dedicated events group that might be of interest. And then there's also a CCLS Fashion Law group on LinkedIn. And this may be of particular interest to you, and you are very welcome to join it. We welcome people who are just thinking about fashion law, want to find out more about fashion law. And this group is great because it includes practitioners, it includes people who've done the existing fashion law modules, and a lot of fashion lawyers and alumni and so forth. So it's a great resource if you would like to join that. It's brand new, and so you'll hopefully meet some good people there, and you'll get a notice or notifications of events. And this QR code, the big one, is of course straight to the LLM in Fashion Law page. So if I give you time to do the QR code, so I wanted to leave enough time for discussions and questions. Also, I mean, they're there as well, but just a reminder, these are the key contacts. So email me. I'm very happy to answer any questions. So please email me anytime. And you can also email the PG Law inquiries email there if you have any questions about the application process. I mean, I can help you with that too, but anything about they can direct you in all the right places. So accommodation, finance officers, etc. So that they'll be able to direct you to all of the relevant places within the university that you might need. And I'm happy to answer absolutely any questions that I can. So I will leave it there so that we have like 15 minutes for discussion.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. We've got some questions in the chat. The first one is, I think, four questions in one. So the first one is, with personal statements, do they need to be specific to fashion law or can they just be on law?
So you in the personal statement, I think it's always useful. So if you're applying to fashion law, I think it's always useful to just have a few words about why fashion, why you want to study in fashion law, because that will make you really stand out. And that will then make it very, very clear about your motivation for the program. So with the fashion law, can you still take the SQ? Yes, of course. I mean, there's no reason you can't take. So one thing I would say, so for example, at the careers event, so one thing you might think about, so we've had a lot of students, like quite a lot of students who've been recruited directly from the fashion law modules to firms as paralegals, and then they've gone on to study within the firm for they've studied their SQE while in the firm. Is that what you mean by that question? I just want to make sure. Oh, and you can also, I mean, there are lots of other careers, absolutely. So if there's in-house counsel, obviously, and fashion law practitioners, but you can also be working in a policy environment. You could be working in a museum, in galleries. I mean, there are in brands, not necessarily as a like in a legal role, but in a policy role or in a commercialization role, business role. You can go on to do further research. Something I think is quite, I mean, genuinely quite special about the Fashion Law LLM is that you have covered a lot of different areas of law, and you've understood how they communicate with each other and how they work together. So that makes you very adaptable just as a commercial lawyer. So any employer looking at what you have done in your transcript is going to go, wow, that's actually very useful, very relevant, and they're quite transferable into any other area of law. So there are lots of lots of different options. And also, of course, we have careers events all the time, and we mix in a lot of different people. So some of former students have gone on to do brands consultancies. Some have gone on to do actual startups. So rental, there was one who created a whole rental business, fashion rental business. So lots and lots of different options. Absolutely. So the next question I have, what types of assessments? So I can run through these. So social justice is a 5,000 word research essay. The 2 IP modules are also research essays, they're 3,000 words. The enterprise module is a legal advice paper. So it's like you advise the enterprise. So how that works is you work in a group, and there might be, say, maybe 7 people in the group. You have a range of different themes that you can choose from, and you allocate them. So you can collaborate as much as you like with your colleagues in your group, but each of you is writing advice on a different theme. So one of you might be writing on consumers, one of you might be writing on distribution. And so you'd be writing on different things. You'd identify a single issue and advise your client on it. The beauty of this is you can also collaborate and work with all of the other enterprise groups within the module. And so, because nobody will be writing on the same thing. Everybody will be writing, advising their enterprise, but each person in an enterprise has a different theme. And so, yeah, it's very collaborative and very cooperative. It's a really great environment. And they're around, again, they have a few different elements. You get a template to write it. It's quite clear. And that's another essay coursework. And then the sustainability module is a reflective portfolio, which means that each week you reflect upon what we've discussed. It's like a diary, like a journal. But in addition to a journal, you also, I mean, it's critically reflective, but you can also introduce other elements. So you could add an actual sample of something. You could have video, you could have images, and all sorts of various materials elements together that provide ultimately what you then reflect on in a kind of summarizing conclusion as to what is important about your experience through sustainability in fashion. And then the transactions module is an exam. It will be an online final assessment exercise. And so that is basically you'll get a couple of things that you need to draft and things like that. So elements like that. It will be, you will be working on what you would be doing within the module itself. And of course, the dissertation is the 10,000 word research paper. Next question. I have an yes, absolutely. You can absolutely change to fashion law. I think if you email me, I can put you in touch with the right people, or I can get that organized for you, but it's better to do it now than later. I mean, it's not impossible to do it later. But from the perspective of the admin office, it's better to do it now. And so yeah, absolutely, you can do that. The chat box is not working. I think, oh, has it? No, it has opened now, I believe. Is that right?
I think we're just using the Q&A function, but I don't think they had a question. They just wanted to give you.
Oh, it's just there's a few links in the chat box, and but they won't be able to see it.
I think they can see the links in the chat box. I just don't think they can add to the chat.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. So you're at QMUL Paris. Yes, I'm sorry it wasn't sooner, but we do hope to come and do some things in Paris. So hopefully we might see you there, or certainly you're very welcome to come and join us for events in London and so forth, and just be part of all the exciting things that are happening. Absolutely. You're very welcome. job opportunities after the LLM in the program. So we work very hard to make sure you get a lot of opportunities, certainly with mentoring. There are never, I mean, there's a very high employability rate at QM. I know that much. And the skills that you are getting are very transferable. We work very hard to make sure that you are in the face of relevant employers, opportunities all the way through. So various networking opportunities. We're finalizing some other opportunities, which I hope to be able to announce soon. And these would be exclusive to the Fashion Law LLM. So that assists you because it means that as well as the really special experience that you bring, because you've got a special LLM, so you're really distinguishing yourself from the rest of the market, you have a smaller pool to compete with because you just have your colleagues. So I think it's really important. I'm really hoping to be able to announce those very soon, and hopefully by inductions I'll have all the details. So and that will be something that you would be able to apply for after you've completed so in the September, after you've completed the LLM, but you don't have to wait for your results, but in the September. That's when, well, you'd apply before that because it would start in September. The one that the ones that we're looking to confirm soon, they would all start in September 26. Yeah. So to prepare, well, I mean, I think just the best way to prepare is just to keep, following what's happening in fashion, whether you do that by following a few key Instagram accounts. I mean, things like Vogue, Business of Fashion, the Fashion Law, fashion brands, they often produce something. Oh, and there's also one about, I think it's called Runway Archive, which has some really interesting materials, excerpts of runway shows and commentary and so forth. And it just gets you an idea of what's happening and what's in the news. And I think that's really good. I mean, just enjoy it. But if you want to look also in various materials that you could be reading, so you could be looking at Business of Fashion on the online site as well, but there's limitations as to how many stories you can see. The Fashion Law, so once you start, you'll have access to these materials, but I don't know if you'll have, but you'll have access to a few articles each month. And you can also just set yourself up for alerts and see how the mainstream press is talking about fashion, because it's interesting and it's relevant because it gives us an insight into consumer perspectives. It gives us an insight into how fashion is understood by the general public, and just the sorts of things that they see as newsworthy about fashion as well. So you will find some really interesting things happening. I don't think you need to prepare much more than that. You can certainly enjoy it. So the question about TMT, so you can choose them as your elective, but it will only be in your free choice. You won't be able to choose the fashion modules as part of your guided electives, or they're not part of your compulsory. So you can take them, but only as your free choice. So you won't have a lot of credits to work with, but you'll have some. Yeah. So I think that might be all of those questions. Are there any other questions?
I think that's all the questions that we've gotten, or that I've gotten. Oh, one more.
So so I believe it is August. That might be the home student. Is it on the website, Karina?
No, I
Might
don't know if they've had a final deadline has been put
Right.
in place
Because
yet.
if there are any visa issues, just if for any this is for everybody. If there are any visa issues, just make sure you factor that into your plans for when to apply. But certainly, yeah, absolutely, I would say apply as soon as you're ready. And and get your offer soon, because we're also hoping to do a few little things before induction just to get everybody kind of meeting each other. So the sooner that you have your offer, the sooner that I can make sure that you're involved in all those events as well.
I found the deadline, it's September 1st, but like you said, I always tell the overseas students to apply as soon as possible, just so you have as much time as you need to get accommodation and all of that.
Yeah,
sorted.
actually, that's a really good point. As Karina said, accommodation is something that you want to get early. Yeah, unless you've got some friends in town or and want to do a share house. Yeah, that's a good point. The home fee, yes, that is correct, I believe. I haven't got the page in front of me, but
I do have the page in front of me. It is, yes, that is the home fee. That is correct.
great. Yes. Oh, I mean, if you are, and I think you do have access to, there are global talent scholarships there, and I should have put that in. Oh, the deadline? No, the deadline is the application. I think you need to have that quite early before you can start the visa process. So I think I don't think it actually takes into account the visa. I'm not sure, Karina.
I don't think so.
Give yourself plenty of time once you have the offer to organize the visa. Payment, I believe, can happen in registration week, can't it? Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So you can be temporarily enrolled at inductions and then enroll fully when you arrive. Options for payment. There are some arrangements for staggered payments, aren't there? I believe. If you'd
Yes.
like to email me, I'll make sure I forward those to the correct person. We can get a proper answer for you. And yeah, but I believe that is possible. But I'm not 100% sure because I'm not usually involved in that. But I will definitely get that to the right person. Yeah. I think, is there anything else I've forgotten? Yeah, so global talent scholarships for anyone, they are basically awarded on a rolling basis. So that's another reason to get your applications in early, because once they are all awarded, there's no more. So it's a good idea to get in early to be eligible for those. And yeah, there are other scholarships that are possible, and they're all on the scholarships page.
Amazing. Thank you, Joe, and thank you everybody who's attended. I think you've answered everybody's questions. But if you guys have any further questions, you have our emails. Feel free to email Joe. If you feel free to email our PG Law Inquiries inbox. And we hope to see an application or see you in person soon.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. I can't wait to meet you all in September when we're doing inductions.
Yes. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.